I have a question for you. But before I do it, let me pull this hair back. I do that just to shock you. And you know, while we're taping this, Kathy Maggie tells me I need to have a good part. Isn't that what mothers do? They want to part and make everything perfect. Well, that's not happening in the case of my mop. But in any case, I have a question for you. Is the righteousness of God by faith on Jesus Christ, or is it by the faith of Jesus Christ? Meaning, does our righteousness come by the faith that we have on Jesus Christ, or does it come by his faith, the faith of Jesus Christ himself? You may wonder, why do I ask such a question? But it speaks to what I call the curious case of Romans 3:22. Let me explain, and this is going to be especially important to people who say the Bible is inerrant, especially King James onlyists, and the whole group that go down that road of being biblical literalists because they need to cling to it, because they need ink in order to worship God instead of the Spirit. What does Romans 3:22 say? In the King James, it reads this way: even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Jesus Christ, unto all and upon all them that believe, for there is no difference. The faith of Jesus Christ? Doesn't that imply that we are imputed with the righteousness of God by the faith that Jesus Christ possessed? Instead of having faith on him, that passage says the faith of him. It does. That's what it says. Is the King James wrong? Should it read by faith on Jesus Christ instead of by faith of Jesus Christ? There's a huge difference. So I dug my heels in and I started to find what people have said. And I looked at the commentaries and I looked at our scholars, and quoting from a critical and exegetical commentary on the epistle to the Romans from Edinburgh, T&T Clark Limited, 1975, Cranfield writes, the genitive Christou expresses the objective of faith. Here, for the first time in the epistle, Christ is explicitly referred to as the object of faith, end quote. All right, fair enough, that's his view. The King James has it right. But then the footnote after the verse reference states, the suggestion that it should be understood as a subjective is altogether unconvincing. That's what it says in the footnote. All right? A.T. Robinson, in his word pictures in the New Testament, said, through faith in Jesus Christ, dia pistios Jesu Christou, intermediate agency, dia is faith, an objective genitive in Jesus Christ, not subjective of Jesus Christ, in spite of Haas leaders' contention for that idea, end quote. Now, all this stuff, you know, it's going over our heads, right? Another endorsement for the King James translation, in other words, by A.T. Robinson. But to explain the difference between a subjective and objective genitive case, a Greek grammar book says, quote, we have the subjective genitive when the noun in the genitive produces the action, being therefore related as subject to the verbal idea of the noun modified, end quote. And it goes on and then it says, quote, we have this construction when the noun in the genitive receives the action, being thus related as object to the verbal idea contained in the noun, end quote. and this is from, by the way, Dana and Matley, A Manual of Grammar of the Greek New Testament, New York, Macmillan, 1955, page 78 and 79. So, what does all of this mean? The phrase faith of Jesus Christ would be taking the genitive of the subjective in the subjective sense, and faith in Jesus Christ would be taking it in the latter sense. Okay, so you have a choice there. And listen, here's the rub, admitted by all these linguists. Both are permissible. Both are allowable. Both are grammatically possible. So it's up to the translator of the version of the Bible to decide which way to go, even though the different interpretations mean very different things. So what's the result? Romans 3:22 in the King James, even the righteousness of God, which is by faith of Jesus Christ. But the New King James has even the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ. Either way, right? The BBE says that is the righteousness of God through faith in Jesus Christ. And so does the M&T, the Oracle, the RSV, the Web, all use faith in Jesus Christ. But the WNT uses faith on Jesus Christ, and the modern King James and the YLT in the Darby all use faith of Jesus Christ, just like the King James. And so what do? Because if you read it in the one sense, you say that we are made righteous by the faith of Jesus Christ, meaning he lived a life, he had faith, and that his faith is what makes us righteous. Or we read translations that say, we look to Jesus Christ, we place our faith on him, and that is how we are made the righteousness of God. And you are studying like a mad woman or a madman in your upper room at night, trying to figure out how to be the best Christian possible, and you come across Romans 3:22, and you start to wonder about this, and you get all the books out and all the papers out, and you read everything possible, and you're trying to figure out what it means, and in the end, it can mean either. This is one proof that the word is a tool. It's valuable. It's one of the greatest material gifts that we have as believers, but it is not our Savior. We are saved by grace through faith, and we walk in the Spirit. And so if someone says it's the one or someone says it's the other, and one person opens their Bible and uses this as a proof text, and another person opens another translation that translates it the other way and uses it as a proof text, we say, I love you both. I don't care. I don't know what the answer is of, in, on. I'm just going to walk by the Spirit and its fruit, which is love. You see? That's one example of dozens we can go into using written word to be our guide, like the Protestant reformers said. Sola scriptura. It has led to division, and here's one reason why. I'm suggesting we pull back from that. We love the word, we study it, we read it by the Spirit. But the fruit of the Spirit must be evident in our love, not our contentions about what the book says.